Hey guys, today. Wait, you know what? Let's just cut to the chase. Sub if you want to and let's get on with it. This is the comprehensive Apex Legends Arenas guide. Now first thing you are going to need to do is adjust your keybinds. Regular BR keybinds just aren't going to cut it in arenas because the meta and playstyle is significantly different. If you are on PC or have a controller with back paddles, then just completely ignore this section. Shown on screen right now is unarguably the best keybinds for arenas. It allows you to jump, slide, use your healing wheel, ping and use your tactical while being able to move, aim and shoot. Now, at first glance, this may seem weird and confusing, but within the first 2 hours you will see how it saves you and enhances your gameplay. Now, first things first, you are going to want to bind jump to R2 or RT and crouch to L2 or LT. Now set your aim button to L1 or pound and set your fire button to R1 or RB. A quick side note here, while using this, you will need to have your index fingers on the bumpers and your middle fingers on your triggers. The benefits to using this layout are that it allows you to aim and shoot while pressing the jump and slide buttons, and this is super important for high mobility players as you can now use your entire arsenal of movement abilities, while accurately aiming and firing at your enemy. Additionally, pressing down the bumper buttons is slightly faster than pressing the trigger buttons, and so your inputs will register faster. I will now show me firing at an enemy while slide hopping, something that just would not be possible on default, tactical or even regular bumper jumper keybinds. Now, onto the buttons on the thumbsticks. Use L3 or LSB for your tactical and rebind R3 or RSB to your healing wheel. Now you are going to want to enable auto sprint in the settings menu, because in a game like Apex, there is literally no reason to ever not be sprinting. Since we removed our tactical button from the bumpers and triggers, L3 or LSB is the only other spot on the controller we can use to aim while having it pressed. Onto the healing wheel. Using R3 or RSB for this allows you to move and aim while selecting and using the desired consumable. With enough practice, this becomes instantaneous, almost to the point of it looking like I'm using hotkeys or something similar on PC. This is the single greatest keybind change in this guide, because healing is extremely important in arenas, and being able to quickly heal gives you a tangible advantage over other players who have to stop moving and aiming to select and use their desired healing item. Here I will now show a demonstration of the benefits and the speed of using R3 or RSB.
Recharging shields. Just a sec. Healing up. Charging up my shields.
We finally arrive at the face buttons. These are basically all the functions we had previously unmapped. A special emphasis has been placed here on keeping the most vital buttons as close to the right stick as possible to minimize the time spent unable to aim in the middle of a gunfight. First, we have the standard square button or the X button on an Xbox controller. This will be used to reload and interact. Now, we have cross or the A button to swap weapons. During a heated firefight, it is critical to be able to swap to your secondary quickly, and the triangle button, which is the furthest button from the right stick, is just not quick enough for. For this reason, triangle has now been mapped to ping. While this does mean that it is slightly harder to operate the ping wheel, the benefits far outweigh the cons. Finally, we have the circle or B button for melee attacks. This one is pretty self-explanatory. In this setup, the D-pad remains unchanged, except we now use up on the D-pad for toggle zoom. I am fully aware as to how wonky this setup is and that it will take a bit of time before you rebuild your muscle memory, but it is worth it in the end. This layout basically allows you to do everything a PC player does on console. Of course, this does not include some of the more advanced movement techniques that absolutely require a keyboard or mouse wheel, but it's close enough. I would recommend trying out the new layout in the firing range for a bit before moving on to actual games, as you can lose during a firefight because of your muscle memory that is adapted to a different button layout. One other thing to note here is that you can customize this layout. I personally cannot stand using the cross button to swap my weapons, so I keep it bound to triangle despite knowing that this layout is far better. Now we can move on to the actual tips for arenas. I'm going to breaking this part down into 3 main parts: meta and playstyles, economy, and positioning. On to positioning. Positioning and map knowledge are really important in arenas because, due to the small sizes of the maps and set spawn locations, there are only a few dozen ways a round can go. It is critical to learn and understand towards what outcome a round is going, and to either expedite or reverse the outcome based on if the round is going in your team's favor. The closest example I can think of is map control in arena shooters like Quake, where a team captures a position and thus gains resources and an advantage over the other team. This process is not something I can really teach you all, since it is something that subconsciously occurs after hours of playing. Now I'm going to show you all some tips for every map, as well as some common rotations that occur for each map. Remember, a red star shows where the fight tends to occur. The pink line is roughly where the enemy team has gone from, and the black line is the path your team has taken. First, we have my favorite map of the bunch, Phase Runner. Phase Runner is the epitome of what an arena's map should be. It is beautifully well designed and looks and plays well. There aren't many tips I can give for this map due to it being so simple and easy to learn. One tip I can give that should be apparent to anyone who has played the map more than once is that rushing through the Phase Runner leads to quick, messy fights that usually result in no one being able to collect any materials from canisters, so maybe don't rush here if your team is losing and you are low on materials. The incomplete Phase Runner, on the other hand, gives way to more tactical, hide-and-seek style combat. Here, you either pick them off one by one, or get picked off yourself. However, the odds of winning against a better team is significantly higher here. Here are some of the trends or rotations that I have noticed. Here is the first example where both teams rush through the Phase Runner. Here it becomes a pure test of skill, and so the result is usually the more mechanically skilled team winning. Example 2 is far more interesting. In this scenario, your team has already hunkered down between the Phase Runners and the other team is approaching from the incomplete runner. Your team has at least 2 shield batteries per person and a Phoenix kit. This usually results in the defending team winning. Example 3 is the polar opposite of example 2. Here, the other team has set up in the Phase Runner and your team must push in. However, do not fret. If you have a Valk, Horizon or Octane on your team, you can use their abilities to gang up on an opponent that has split up and then 3v2. Alternatively, you can also go back to your spawn, if the ring hasn't blocked it, and use the Phase Runner. Example 4 is just hide and seek to locate and eliminate enemy players. Due to the structure of the incomplete portal, players tend to hide over, under and behind the middle wall to heal. This makes Bloodhound scans especially valuable. Example 5 is exactly the same as example 3, however this one is even more dangerous to push. Your best bet is to want for them to come to you instead of running in. Example 6 is heaven for players with terrible aim like me, as it allows you to have heals and hiding spots, while having the enemy come to you. Now, on to Party Crasher. Party Crasher is basically a mini version of Phase Runner. Here, Mirage Voyage is the junction between the 2 portals and the 2 buildings are the incomplete portal. However, there are some key differences. Due to the map being significantly smaller, pushing defending teams is significantly easier. Additionally, the height of Mirage Voyage makes it an ideal sniper's nest despite being so open and exposed. Frankly, I'm not even going to talk about artillery because it is such a terrible map. It is pure chaos, with it always feeling like the map is in the enemy's favor despite what side you spawn on. All I will say is this: don't just blindly rush onto the ziplines. It is far more effective to wait on the large buildings for a second to assess where the enemy team is before making a move. Now I want to briefly touch upon a very important concept that is extremely critical in arenas, and that is the 40-60 rule. I cannot, in good conscience, claim this as my technique. I originally found out about this from Brutal Cleric, who appears to be the one to originally discover this. A link to his video is in the top right and in the description. In essence, what this is to keep 40% of your screen, and by extension your hitbox, behind cover, while the other 60% of your screen should be on your enemy. While this is not possible in every fight, as most fights as my main, Valkyrie, involve either getting lasered out of the sky by ultra sweats or dropping down behind an unsuspecting fool and deleting them in milliseconds, I have very few chances to actually apply this technique in game. However, in the few times where I was forced to pick a grounded legend, I found this technique especially useful. Meta and Playstyles. This one is basically two sections mixed into one, since they are pretty homogeneous and each should be executed in a way that complements the others. If you want to pick off meta legends, then pick up a B tier and above non-complementary weapons, or pick C tier and above complementary weapons. Now, what do I mean by complementary weapons? Complementary weapons are weapons that fit a certain character's playstyle. For example, it's best to use LMGs with characters like Rampart and Jibby because they are really defensive legends. You might want to use snipers and DMRs with legends like Crypto, Bangalore and Lifeline, since they excel in long-range combat, and so on. This should be something that even newer players understand, but I still see level 300 to 400s long-range sniping with Octane or rushing with R9S's Caustic. Just keep this in mind while playing. As it's not even been 5 days since the release of Arenas, it's impossible to give a 100% accurate guide on the state of the meta. However, if I had to say, here is how I would rank the legends. S tier. We have Bloodhound, Crypto, Lifeline and Gibraltar. These are all S tier for obvious reasons, either because of their information gathering or team support abilities. On the very peak of A tier, we have Valkyrie. She is extremely good for flanking, and her tactical basically makes spying grenades an optional endeavor. However, her slow flying speed and the VTL being so loud, she stops just short of S tier. However, there is a way to basically negate the ill effects of using the VTL, which I have made a Reddit post about, link in the top right corner or the description. But, too long didn't read. Use Volk's VTOL in short 3-4 second bursts instead of just hovering over the map. Getting back on topic, we have Revenant, Fuse, Pathy, Wraith and Horizon in A tier. Octane, Mirage, Bangalore and Rampart are at B tier. And finally, Loba, Watson and Caustic are at C tier. While their ultimates might be useful, their other abilities are just terrible in arenas. Now we can talk about one of my favorite parts of the arenas game mode, the economy. Before we begin, I want to briefly mention the singular best item you can buy in the store, the shield battery. Any round you do not buy a battery, you might as well just commit Sudoku because of how useful it is. Remember this. Now, let's put up some numbers here. You start every arenas match with 550 materials. There is a round bonus you get after each round. This amount scales from 800 materials in the second round all the way to 2500 materials before the sudden death round. You receive 75 materials per kill and 200 materials per crafting metal canister. Any unspent materials will be saved for the next round, and unlike the BR mode, only one teammate needs to interact with the canisters for everyone on your team to receive the materials. The 550 material starting amount means that you can effectively buy any weapon in the store except to R301, the Butchek bar and the charge rifle on the very first round. However, if you want to follow the golden rule and buy a shield battery, anything more expensive than an alternator is out of the question. It is for this exact reason that I like to buy an upgraded RE45, a Mozambique and a battery. This is just personal preference, but I would rather prefer to have a mini R99 with a white mag and a sight than a base alternator. The evil oozes out here as it is just not versatile enough, though it can function as an effective alternative to the Mozambique if you are half buying and can't afford a pack from round 2 onwards. There really is no preset meta. You usually have enough money to buy a blue weapon and Mozambique or 2 white primary weapons. I like to go for a white Volt and G7 Scout, but again, it's all just personal preference, since unlike other games, the more expensive weapons aren't just mathematically better than the cheaper versions. An example of this is the Galil and AK from Counter-Strike. The Galil may be cheaper, however the AK's stats are better in almost every regard. This is in stark contrast to arenas, where even though the R301 is more expensive than the flatline, both are still roughly the same. And that's it. Of course, I have omitted some of the more legend-specific strats and techniques, but that is Frothy's job and something I am wholly unqualified to do. If, however, this video gains a decent amount of traction, I may consider doing another one of these videos for Volk. So subscribe and hit the like button if you learned something or found this video enjoyable in a by way, shape or form. Have a good day, and I will see you on the frontier, pilots.